people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. It would appear that this past weekend, young Naomi Valle, the younger sister of Yokasta Valle, won her fight against Genesis Arias in what was their native Costa Rica, on the bounce after suffering her first professional loss in what was her MVP debut last year. It's just her luck that her older sister, Yokasta Valle, has her own promotional outfit that do their own shows in their native Costa Rica, allowing Naomi to get back in the winner's bracket first thing this year. So where Naomi is different from her older sister Yokasta is where Yokasta favors trading punches mid-range to inside, getting down and dirty. Naomi's more finesse, more the boxer of the family. So what I noticed in the fight last year is she became flustered as Federica was crashing the pocket and invading her personal space. Long-distance fighters often struggle with that. Maybe that's what makes them long-distance fighters. I really like fighting on the inside. They're not comfortable. There are really only two remedies to not being comfortable boxing on the inside. You either do a better job of managing the distance at which the fight is being fought, or you learn to fight on the inside so you're comfortable fighting on the inside. Now advancing to a professional record of 15 wins with 1 loss and no draws, 9 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 16 professional bouts, the official outcome has not yet been recorded by the record keepers at BoxRec. They know about the contest, it's registered, but they haven't recorded the outcome yet, which is sometimes the case with fights that happen in Central and South America. It takes those regional commissions a bit of time to communicate with the record keepers. Sometimes the outcomes, hell, sometimes the fights don't get recorded at all. I remember Jose Zepeda had a fight in Mexico that isn't listed on his BoxRec. In any event, Naomi is now back in the winner's bracket, and back on track, seemingly. Does she go back to boxing on MVP shows? I suppose they could continue to use her, but it would be at purely a developmental level, because in spite of having 15 or 16 professional bouts, or however many it is now, that's what Naomi's doing. Naomi is developing. She's still very young. 21. You can't rush her to an alphabet title with what are those glaring deficiencies. This past weekend's contest was scheduled for 8 rounds in the women's minimum weight division, where her older sister, Yokasta, holds the WBC title, Germany's own Sarah Borman holds the WBA and the WBO, and 2-time champion Kim Clavel holds the IBF, all of which are a lot more seasoned, a lot more experienced than young Naomi. Too experienced for her to challenge any of them for any of their titles in the near future. There's more work needs doing. I never find it encouraging when a fighter's not comfortable fighting on the inside, because it's not easily remedied. As stated, there's only 2 ways to deal with it. You either do a better job of managing the distance at which the fight is being fought to prevent the opponent from getting on the inside, or you bite the fucking bullet and learn how to fight on the inside, so you're not like a deer in the headlights whenever you have to work there. So we'll see what the future holds for young Naomi, but she's off to a good start. She started the year in the winner's bracket. Let's see if she can stay there. Men's welterweight news. Former champion Brian Norman put on his big boy pants and decided to hire a new head trainer, as his father, Brian Norman Sr., is no longer head trainer. Brian Norman Jr. has made a major change in his camp following his first professional defeat. I will say my father is no longer my head trainer at the moment. Norman, now 28-1 with 22 KOs, said in an expansive interview with Najee of Cigar Talk, I have been looking at other options at the moment. I know some things had to get shaken up a bit, just had to move different ways. That's all. That's a grown man move is what that is, because how many fighters with how many skill sets have we seen stagnate for how many years because they didn't want to hire a new trainer, because they were the other half of one of those father and son duos you're always hearing about. Brian Norman Sr. had been both the head coach and a prominent voice, speaking on behalf of his talented son, guiding him all the way to gaining the WBO title at 147, but Norman Jr. was dethroned in his third defense as he was dropped by Devin Haney in the second round of their bout this past November 22nd and ultimately lost via unanimous decision. I like winning. I need to go out here and win, Norman Jr. said. Whatever I feel like I need to do, I'm going to go out there and do it. No disrespect to him or anything like that. Great coach. Of course. He got me to this point. He's still around, but it's just that head trainer. I just feel like I need to venture out a little bit. Norman, a 25-year-old resident of Conyers, Georgia, said he's talked with his promotional team at Top Rank and is looking at potential return dates in March and April. I know for a fact that I'm going to get the job done, Norman said. Even still, to this day, I'm still the god of war, and I still lost the battle, but I will win the war. I will be back and fight Devin Haney. That's interesting. That he spoke with his promotional team at Top Rank, and they're looking at bringing him back in March or April. Is that when we can expect them to finally iron out a new broadcast deal? Not with anybody else. Top Rank are the ones who promote him, so if he's talking about a comeback date and a comeback fight, one would assume they're the ones behind it. Norman acknowledged that he will need to earn another shot at the title, whether it's against Devin Haney or any of the other men with belts at 147. I need to go and knock me one head off real quick, and hopefully right after that, y'all see us like that, he said. What are the odds that Brian Norman can get a rematch with Devin? Usually rematches don't happen in situations where one guy loses comprehensively. Usually they don't. I think the silver lining for Brian is Devin isn't going anywhere anytime soon. He really just got to the welterweight division, in tandem with him not having the physical dimensions of a junior middleweight. I don't see Devin going up there anytime soon, if at all. He may have hit his ceiling at 147. So there is still hope for Brian to get that rematch. He can go back up the WBO route, become Devin's mandatory, see about getting the rematch that way. Or he can target one of the other champions at the weight. Now, almost immediately, you know that some of these fights are more attainable than others. He's not going to get a fight with the winner of Garcia versus Barrios for the WBC. And he's not going to get a fight with Rolly Romero so long as Rolly holds the WBA. But maybe he can go after Lewis Crocker, who's got the IBF. Beauty of going up the IBF route is, you know, so long as you fight in those eliminators and you win them, you will get your crack at the apple. You will get your title shot. The caveat is, going up the IBF route, you are subject to that rehydration cap. None of the other three sanctioning bodies do that, just the IBF. But those are the most viable routes for Brian to get at what he wants to get at. He can go up the WBO route and target Devin straight away, or target a different champion for a different title, then bring that to a rematch. Do you actually want to see a rematch? No, not really. After that knockdown early in the fight, the rest of it was a blur. It was really just Devin doing what he does and boring us half to death. So then what was it that costed Brian the fight? The usual stuff from Devin. The movement, the jab, the timing behind it. Typical Devin Haney stuff, because he doesn't have much in terms of an offensive arsenal. Most of what he goes out there and does are evasive maneuvers, as is customary with a pure boxer. Safety first, while sneaking in a few scoring blows, a few pot shots in between. That's how Devin won, that's how Devin wins, and Brian seemingly just didn't know how to respond to that. What I expected him to do was turn the heat up on Devin. When facing a pure boxer, you have to try to mow them down. You have to try to force them to fight, force them to trade, draw them into exchanges, make them uncomfortable, and fight at a pace they're not comfortable with. Brian didn't do that. It looked like Brian got caught playing Devin's game. So now he's put on his big boy pants and made the decision he doesn't want to be trained by his father anymore. What I think is the right decision. Father and son duos in boxing are sort of a gift and a curse, because oftentimes it's the fathers that start off the sons on the path to boxing, though not before long, they outlive their usefulness. There's only so much they can teach them. Making this a ballsy move, but the right one. I suppose that anything would be a step up from Brian Norman Sr. It's not even a knock on him, but whatever plan they came up with for Devin Haney was clearly the wrong one, and watching him in the corner trying to give advice to his son, it's like he didn't know what to tell him. Who would I recommend for Brian Norman? There are a handful of trainers that I'm very fond of. Buddy McGirt is one among them. Maybe he would be a good fit for Brian Norman, because he doesn't try to reinvent the wheel. He only tries to draw out what you're already good at and sharpen it. Bo McIntyre is another good shout. Now that Bo Mac is not training Keyshawn Davis, maybe he can train Brian. Can't be a bad idea to have some of that Terrence Crawford energy rub off on you. It's rubbed off on Lester the Molester Martinez. Maybe it could rub off on Brian. Silver lining for Brian is that he's made this major change at the right time. And he's still young. He's only 25, to where even if there are some bad habits there, he's still not set into them. Young enough to change, young enough to improve, young enough to learn. And because he's the one who made this decision, you know that he wants to. So he's got his head in the right place. I wish him all the best. In men's heavyweight news, Big John Fury, father of Tyson Fury, said Deontay Wilder is finished in the sport of boxing and Alexander Usyk should be embarrassed of himself, calling Wilder out at this stage. That's what Tyson Fury's dad, John, believes. John told Seconds Out, Wilder's done. Wilder needs to retire before he ends up permanently damaged. Usyk, for me, is taking the piss, wanting to fight Deontay, a man long past his best. He hasn't a leg underneath him. He can't take a shot anymore. He's damaged material. Why take the liberty? Why tread where the grass is low when you wouldn't fight him when he was at his best? Bullshit! That is fucking bullshit. When Wilder was supposedly at his best, Usyk was still at cruiserweight. By the time he moves up to heavy, not but 2 or 3 months later, your son beat Wilder and in effect ruined him. Credit to him. But I hate seeing what people do to the timeline. Usyk moved up to heavyweight in late 2019. Wilder lost to Fury in early 2020, and after he lost, he made it his mission to get a third fight, which he got and also lost. He wanted it back in blood, remember? The stars never aligned for Usyk and Wilder to meet while Wilder was still champion and unbeaten, though. Hindsight being 2020, you see what Usyk has done to this division, what he's done to this division's best, including your son. So I'd say it's not far-fetched that he would have beat Wilder back then. Yeah, I'm saying it. I think he would have beat Wilder in his prime, because Wilder in his prime, at his very best, has no noteworthy wins. No one he beat that was worth remembering. John Fury continued, I wouldn't want to embarrass myself wanting to fight a man like Deontay Wilder on Usyk's ability, and yet you embarrassed yourself targeting the smallest man in the room. Remember, right before your son fought Usyk? John Fury's not a small guy. He's got to be 250, 260, maybe more. He targets the smallest guy in the room and out of the clear blue sky headbutts him, a member of Usyk's team. Remember that? So that he can stand on his soapbox now preaching about etiquette and not targeting the low-hanging fruit? What are the Furies if not hypocritical? That Alexander Usyk don't need an etiquette lesson from you.
Usyk is absolutely a wonderful fighter. He isn't box office.
Tyson Fury has to go and recapture that WBO title if he's got any chance of fighting Usyk again.
Tragically for Usyk, he can't get the kind of money that his status should determine. If they've all got drunk at the table, getting paid £50 million for fighting one another, and all of a sudden the air's going out of the room financially because the Saudis aren't going to keep on overpaying, and there's a level to this, and whilst Usyk is absolutely a wonderful fighter, he isn't box office in terms of being able to cut through outside of the fighting fans. He has to fight. He has to have a dance partner that makes the noise for him alongside him. Daniel made the noise because of the UK crowd and the 90,000 people that turned up at Wembley. Obviously Anthony and obviously Tyson Fury did that. So if you look at Ajit Kabiel, why would he fight Ajit Kabiel? He's going to get 5-10 million quid for it. And he's been getting that for a sparring session.
What might explain why Usyk is fighting Deontay Wilder instead of Agit Kabayel or someone else. Needs a dance partner. I don't completely disagree with Simon, but I don't completely agree with him either. It is true that Usyk needs the dance partner to bring out the crowd and bring out the big money. But I could say that about most of the guys that he mentioned, save one, because only one among them is a draw unto himself, and that's Anthony Joshua. The other two he mentioned, Tyson Fury, Daniel Dubois, they need dance partners too, because what was Daniel Dubois doing on his own? I mean, without a dance partner. Yeah, he did a big crowd with AJ, but he had AJ like Usyk had AJ. He had a dance partner. What was he doing on his own? When he comes back, he's gonna do 90,000 at Wembley? No, he's gonna do half that.
Yeah, fucking right.
Listen, you're right, Simon, that Usyk does need a dance partner. But so does Daniel Dubois, just as much. He needs a frick to his frack. So does Fury. Fury comes to America, he fights Deontay Wilder 3 times. They did good crowds with their 3 fights. But without Wilder, what did he do? What did he do with Tom Schwartz? What did he do with Otto Wallin? Here's a hint. Not what he did with Wilder. Now, Fury did do a good crowd when he fought Dillian Whyte, but of course, he didn't do that good crowd all because of him, all on his own, because where was that crowd when he fought Derek Chisora for a 3rd time? Yeah, he did a good crowd with Dillian, but some of those people that were there to support Dillian, some of them, and others were just there to see a good fight, not necessarily because they adore Tyson Fury. So you can say that Usyk needs a good dance partner to bring out the big crowd and the big money, but so does Daniel, so does Tyson Fury, and so do a lot of guys, to where that really shouldn't be a knock on Alexander Usyk. To say that he's really not box office after spending the last 5 or 6 years boxing in front of a British audience, I would think he has endeared himself to a sizable portion of that audience by now with his fight against Tony Bellew and Derek Chisora, the 2 fights with Anthony Joshua, the other 2 with Fury, and 2 more with Daniel Dubois, to where by now, if Usyk is fighting, Britons are watching because they know him. They've known him for years now. You can't do the Johnny Foreigner thing. How many interviews with how many British boxing content creators and Boxing Social and IFL TV? You look at the online metrics for some of Usyk's kookier moments, his kookier videos, and you think those are Americans that were watching those videos and pushing those metrics. Those were Brits. It's a collection of patriotic Ukrainians and Britons who have come to know him over time. So I don't think it's a fair assessment to say that Usyk is not box office. Maybe not in America. You may have a point there. But he wasn't in America. I mean, he wasn't in the United States fighting for 5 or 6 years like he was fighting in the United Kingdom. He's done it enough times that I would say in the United Kingdom, he is a bankable commodity. And yes, he needs a dance partner. But a lot of guys do. So that's not saying much. Get off your high horse, Simon.